So this is the new wildflower meadow, and we planted this 18 months ago. And what we did first of all was we sprayed it off with glyphosate, which some people feel really anxious about, but the truth is the whole of this farm had been sprayed with glyphosate over 40 years on a really regular basis. And what had resulted, it was then re-sown with really boring Italian ryegrass mix, and there were lots of thistles and docks in it. So what we had here was very boring, and it wasn't really a good place to start. So we sprayed it off and we re-sowed with a much more exciting mix of grasses and wildflowers in it. And the key thing is that the grasses that we re-sowed with are fine-leaved rather than coarse-leaved grasses. So they look more like almost like a chive rather than almost sort of like an iris, if you see what I mean. If you have fine-leaf grasses, they can cohabit with wildflowers really easily, because it's literally the leaves don't sort of creep out and just smother all the wildflowers around them. And that's what you don't want. And so fine-leaf grasses can have the wildflowers going through them. And then what we did is we sowed this stuff called yellow rattle, which is an annual, which is parasitical on grasses. So not only have you got a weak growing grass with the fine leaves, but you're actually weakening it further by adding in the yellow rattle. And that allows the sward to open up so that the wildflowers stand a much greater chance to self-sow all the way through it. And so if you just stand here, this is only 18 months old, it's not that exciting at the moment because there aren't that many flowers out. But if you actually look down into the grass, you'll see there are lots of different leaves, lots of sort of different textures and patterns, and that's because there are quite a few different species in here. And then you just look over the hedge, which is a newly planted hedge, and look at what was here 18 months ago, and that was that, which is really dull, nettles, docks, thistles, and mainly Italian ryegrass mix. And so even though this isn't spectacular yet, it's really optimistic, and if we come back and look at this in about 6 weeks' time, you know, I can see here there's geranium, there's buttercup, there's sorrel, there's knapweeds, there's oxeye daisy, you know, there's lots of exciting things, yarrow. And so once this is all in flower, then it'll look beautiful, and it will then gradually just self-sow from one year to the next, and so it'll get more and more and more flowery and less grassy.